Going into this episode of Monday Night Raw, I was expecting a tribute show when I heard that they were going to break the news on SmackDown that we're going to pay tribute to the Ultimate Warrior. And that got me really excited to see what they're going to do with this Raw. And with that said, to me, after watching this Raw, it felt like this is more of a setup show than it was a tribute show. Yes, they done the whole bell toll at the very beginning of the show where people were standing on the entrance ramp, the stage part, and all that was well and good. You showed the vignettes of the Ultimate Warrior from SummerSlam 1990 inside the steel cage, Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, as well as in SummerSlam 98 when he faced Honky Tonk Man. And I also enjoyed the video package that they posted at the very beginning of the show as well. So I like what they're doing, paying homage to the Ultimate Warrior, but I was expecting storylines to be dropped and just have matches that pay tribute to the Ultimate Warrior instead of having matches that are going to set up the next pay-per-view event. And I didn't get that. I was disappointed. But overall, this show really had that WrestleMania hangover type of feel, and you know what? It was to be expected at some point, because I didn't expect this Raw to be even half as good as last week's, so I can understand it, because WrestleMania is that big time show. You had the Raw the night after WrestleMania, and the fans were still hyped, and now this was the hangover show, and so I kind of expected it. You know, it was like people were out partying, they were having a good time, they were drinking, and now they're all hangover. Ugh. So it was that kind of show where the fans never really reacted quite as well as they done last week on Raw. Now, even though the overall feel of the show felt boring in the sense of the crowd not reacting to a lot of the stuff, this show had some really good things. And one of those really good things is I like the idea of having a tournament into determining a number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. It's something that, in a way, paid homage to the Ultimate Warrior because Ultimate Warrior was once Intercontinental Champion. So that I really did like as well. I like how they threw that in without telling us. And that's what made this tournament special, is Ultimate Warrior. Not only that, and it's because we never seen this in a very long time, and I like that finally they're showing some importance, to an extent, to the Intercontinental Championship into developing this tournament, and I like some of the participants that they had in this match. I mean, in this tournament overall. The first match that was on the show was Rob Van Dam versus Alberto Del Rio, which just felt like a filler match, where RVD won. We also had Cesaro versus Mark Henry, kind of a throwaway, but they made Cesaro look strong at the end. I really did enjoy it. And we also had the Sheamus versus Jack Swagger. Again, just feels like a fill-in type of match where Sheamus went over. I expected Jack Swagger to win this because I would have liked to seen the story develop between Jack Swagger and Cesaro develop when they get to the final match of the tournament. I expected that, so I'm disappointed. But what we did receive is, to me, the match of the night between Dolph Ziggler and Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett. And this was the final match. That was, well, actually it was the second final match on the show, but the final match on the tournament. And this was the only match to me that felt like it was a tournament quality type of match. Both guys were going back and forth. You didn't know who was going to win. It had its suspenseful moments. So at least this match gave us something that the other three matches really ultimately failed in to do. And that was deliver a really good, solid wrestling match. And at the end, Wade Barrett won this match. And after that, he cut a promo and said that he's going to be the next Intercontinental Championship. And overall, I like how they're not going this all in with just Cesaro being the overall favorite. I like the idea of Wade Barrett being this dark horse and also a favorite in a kind of way as well. I don't know if they're going to go there with Wade Barrett, but I think they should. You know what? At least give him the ball to run with and have this tournament for him to run with it. Why not have him win this tournament? But yet, in the same time, you can make the argument for Cesaro. So I'm on the fence with these two guys because in the semifinals, we're going to see Antonio Cesaro, or should I say Cesaro, and he's going to face off with Rob Van Dam next week, and we're also going to have Bad News Barrett, Wade Barrett, to take on Sheamus next week. So I expect to see Wade Barrett to go over Sheamus and Cesaro to go over RVD, and to have those two in the final match to determine the number one contender. That will be very interesting because you have the alliance forming with Paul Heyman and Cesaro, which I'm on the fence because you have a heel manager who just managed a guy who broke the streak, and now he's aligning himself with someone who I thought was going to run as a babyface, and now all of a sudden they decide to align him with Paul Heyman and face off with other babyfaces like Mark Henry and next week with Rob Van Dam. So it's really, really interesting to see where this is going to go with Paul Heyman and Antonio Cesaro. I don't know if this is going to work overall in a long-term perspective, but it's also very interesting to say the very least. Also on the show, we saw Cody Rhodes in Goldust versus Ryback and Curtis Axel. Just a throw-in match, but at least it gave us some sort of little purpose into saying, okay, who do we have next to face the Usos for the Tag Team Championships? And it looks like the WWE is looking at Ryback and Curtis Axel. I don't know how I should care about these two teams going at it. Because of the treatment Ryback and Curtis Axel has been receiving from the WWE. So that's just something I'm really not too interested in. And it's also a match I expect the Usos to retain their Tag Team Championships. And speaking of the Usos, they get in a match between Randy Orton and Batista. And I like the little things. I like the Usos coming out with the Ultimate Warrior face paint and the t-shirts, as well as Mark Henry and Dolph Ziggler done as well. And I like that moment where one of the Usos were shaking the ropes. So I like, in a way, that some of the superstars were paying tribute in some sort of way to the Ultimate Warrior. I like in the very beginning that they sold their emotions well, based off what happened last week with the attack between Orton and Batista. And overall, this was just an okay match, but it was still a setup type of feel, setting up the whole Shield thing, because you had the Shield come out of nowhere and attack Randy Orton, and then surround Batista in the ring. And then we'll get to something that will happen later on. We also saw Paige going one-on-one with Alicia Fox, and in a non-title match, and I actually liked Alicia Fox here. She was trending on Twitter, and I like that she looked really confident and strong. And even though she was jobbing out to Paige, to me, this is the Alicia Fox I like to see more often. Not just on NXT, but on Raw. I like to see more of this with her, and a lot more of this with a lot of the divas on the roster. Come on, WWE, put some effort into the Divas division. To me, this is a small little sign of that to happen, and I hope they go with it. And this was a match, really, ultimately at the end for Paige to set herself up as that Divas champion. No sign from AJ Lee. I don't know if she'll be getting a rematch. If so, I see Paige retaining. But overall, I like what they've done here with Paige. I like how Alicia was doing most of the work, and like I said, she was great throughout this match. And then basically you just had Paige capitalize and got the win in like short fashion. So it was a decent way to develop your Divas champion overall. Also on the show, we saw Alexander Rusev in a pretty much a jobber squash match versus Xavier Woods, 30 seconds long. Really nothing there I could really go in depth with. We also had Big Show versus Damien Sandow. This match was kind of thrown up because we saw Damien Sandow come on the microphone and basically says, I should be treated better, and I will not be silent. Even when Big Show's music hits, he's still talking on. And he gets in Big Show's face and says that, what do you care? What do you want? And stuff like that, and he gets knocked out for it. And the way I look at it is that if the way they treat Damien Sandow on Raw is just absolutely horrible, and now they decide to do this to him. Bad and terrible all over. And then we get to something positive, I think, and it was one of the highlights of the show. Even though John Cena was terrible, I still enjoy Bray Wyatt in this promo. I like that that they even had a teaser before they even came out. So I really enjoyed that, and I liked Bray Wyatt's promo. He never fails in delivering his promos. Always top notch. Came out and said that Cena, he's no man, he's a beast, and basically says he just wants to come out and play. He calls out John Cena. John Cena comes out and says that the monster doesn't exist in me, and that basically all of a sudden decides to throw in comedy to poke fun at the Wyatt family, and just throws them under the bus in his Cena typical promo, watered down kind of way. It was bad, it was terrible, but I like how Bray Wyatt reacted to him. That was great. It was a very one-sided type of segment where Bray Wyatt was doing the great promo work and John Cena was just being the typical John Cena guy. And I have really no interest in this rivalry continuing because John Cena just overcame the odds at WrestleMania 30, so why is this continuing? That is the one thing I question here, because John Cena just, overcame the odds at WrestleMania. There's just no need to continue this feud with Bray Wyatt. And I understand what they're doing because Bray Wyatt needs to have that win over John Cena, but this would have been better if Bray Wyatt got the win at WrestleMania and then John Cena wins at Extreme Rules. That would have been a lot better. So I just don't understand the logic behind this thing between Bray Wyatt and John Cena continuing. That's just all. We also saw Santino Marella and Emma versus Fandango and Layla. And what I like overall about this match is something that has nothing to do with the match at all, and that's Summer Rae. I like that she's branching off as her own diva. That's the one thing I like that came out of this. I like that they broke up Fandango and Summer Rae, but over Twitter? You couldn't do it on TV? Come on, put in the effort. At least show us some sort of interesting development storyline between Summer Rae and Fandango, planting the seeds of a breakup. Come on. Just give us that instead of throwing this in. And having Layla being Fandango's manager is just not the same regardless anyway. So it's a weird situation on a lot of people on here, like Layla, like Fandango. It doesn't elevate Fandango any, but at least they're giving Summer Rae hope, I hope. And then we also saw an interesting backstage segment, I thought, in my opinion, and it was with Stephanie McMahon and Kane. I like how Stephanie just channeled her inner Vince McMahon. She's a chip off the old block. She was like, shut up. And basically Kane says, basically Stephanie says that what happened to the monster, etc., etc., etc. And Kane looks at the mask, and you get the idea. I don't know if they're going to go into the direction of Kane being Daniel Bryan's opponent. On the fence with it. And then we got to the main event, and this was basically the Shield versus the World. Del Rio, Jack Swagger, Fandango, 3MB, Titus, Ryback, Rusev and Wade Barrett. And basically at the end of this match, we get the whole evolution thing where you had Batista, Orton, and Triple H come out and just demolish the Shield after they've been demolished by the mid-carders and tag teams and jobbers. So even though a lot of good things that happened, this was the one thing I was expecting to come out of this Raw, is to have that moment where you say, I'm sold, I'm setting up the whole Evolution versus the Shield win-win situation. I like what they're doing here, and this to me was much needed for the show, because overall this wasn't the greatest Raw. This was not perfect. This was WrestleMania hangover, and with that being said, I would give it even at least a 5 or a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10 in that range. And if you saw this episode of Raw, what did you think? Comment below, let me know. While you're at it, you can follow MRB Wrestling on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook, and you can hit that subscribe button down below this video. And to all you viewers watching, get plenty of rest, and always do your best.